Howdy, folks. Welcome in to the Smite Challenger Circuit as we wind down phase number 2 here with the final game of the 5th week of phase number 2. Breaks my heart to tell you, but I'm Dimes. That's Kaizo, and Kaizo fills my heart with joy and love. Buddy, we've got the Xibalba Storm, we've got the Kaolin Wardens. Both these squads are 1 and 3. We're not fighting for a shot at Worlds. We're fighting for pride, glory, and Reddit karma, I guess.
Reddit karma. I was told there was a much different prize. And Dimes, if you want me to fill you with anything more than just love and joy, I can do that too. But at least for the time being,
Hindu, come
just
pick
for
me up.
tonight, we're just for tonight. You're right. Before Dimes' mom gets here, we're gonna be going over the set tonight. And you're totally right. It is out of the conversation for attempting to place into the world's bracket and getting that opportunity. These are both teams that I believe 1 and 3 for both of them. Dimes, correct me if I'm wrong here. So
Perfect.
it's going to be mostly for pride. If there is Reddit karma that comes with it, then I think that's just an added bonus. But at least for the time being, it's good reps. It's going to be good practice for the next season and potentially qualifiers or relegations coming up for some of our bottom end teams that might have missed the cusp and didn't get that opportunity to go for the play-in bracket like these guys. And it's also just more good Smite for us to watch. And if you got to see any of the SPL set before us, then you know that there's some good Smite to be had in the current meta.
Plenty to talk about, and the meta starts with picks and bans for game number 1 here. We've been seeing some mages taken to the solo lane. Meta's been, using your words, Meta's been prioritizing utility mages that can benefit from defensive items. So we've been seeing some of the, it's almost like I ripped that directly from someone who knows what they're talking about. We've been seeing the Alpwashes, the Raigens, things of that nature being taken into the solo lane along with more traditional picks. As a couple of ADCs go by the wayside here and set the first ban off the board here for the Wardens. We were just talking about these two particular teams and how you're actually pretty close with these players, just in general from, hanging around the scene for so long, knowing these particular squads as you do. Is there any picks that like jut out to you as must pick or must ban for either one of these squads when we're thinking about comfort?
I do know that Ratmilk loves his Thor, which is pretty prominent right now. Daji also a pretty prominent one in his god pool, obviously less prioritized. And I know that Tegveer's main god is the Achilles, which we got to see a little bit of the last time that we saw this guy. I don't anticipate that might come out here. It is a particularly bad matchup against things like the mages. They're not magical anything. They're just mages that we've seen a lot of over there in the solo lane. Just tends to get poked out a little bit too hard and gets out cleared. So probably not high prio there. I think that this Pele is probably a good direction to look in if you want something that is mutually contested by both of these teams. I know that GIobe plays us in the mid lane. I know that nnog has some practice on it as well. And I know Pico and Ratmilk both are very, very comfortable on this pick. So definitely, if you want to take one thing away that has a little bit of flex potential, can go either way. I think the Pele is a very rational place to start.
With the Baba Yaga and the Yemoja being looked at here, I mean, I like what you talked about, the flexibility there, because even though Baba Yaga is going the way of the Wardens here, that second ban phase, rather, they still have to worry about the Storm picking up a mid laner if the Storm doesn't head the way of a magical god here. So Yemoja and Baba Yaga going to be the lock-in here. Pele can flex mid into that jungle role as well. Likely see another support picked up here. I mean, we've been seeing the Khepris, the Terras. Athena's obviously the highest pick I span. Ares as well, another high priority pick. And this is just a staple duo lane that we've been seeing the last couple weeks.
Yeah, and the Wardens get what I would consider to be the best the best support in a situation where Athena's already taken off the board. I do think that in certain compositions, Ares can fit that role as well if you're playing against a team, actually, in fact, much like the Wardens, that benefits from using movement abilities, doesn't have a lot of crowd control immunity. I know that Baba Yaga wants to duck down into that cauldron, jump on out of there if danger's coming, and something like an unexpected cripple could certainly put a damper on her mood. So wouldn't have actually been a bad pick here. But you mentioned the Terra, which One that I think is on the rise. I think stocks are definitely going up for this character. Her ult is as good as it ever has been, and it's gotten to the point where wave 1, wave 2 pressure is so important, and she actually does that surprisingly well with those cleave auto attacks that she got however many patches back. And then late game, you still get to have a Terra as your support. Does all of the utility things that you want, reasonable CC from a range, decent mobility, high team fight presence with the ultimate. It's got a lot of highlights right now, and not a whole lot to really say that it does, or it doesn't do rather, a little bit more weakly. So I think the Storm get a comparable, even if not maybe quite on the same tier, pick for their support as the Wardens do.
With the Sun Wukong lock in, got to target out some of these solo laners. Interesting that Nike gets banned out. I mean, Nike jungle, I guess the thought process there from the Storm, as the Wardens are looking at Ishtar here. Anhur, Ishtar, Karnanos, kind of interchangeable, especially with Chernobog being banned away. So the Storm have their duo lane locked in. We know that for sure. Likely looking for definitely a solo laner needs to be picked up here. Mid jungle flexibility. And I think that answers the question right there.
It does. It tells us probably where each of these picks are going. And even looking at all 5 gods sometimes in the current meta, it's not entirely clear where people are going to be lining up, but I think that we're likely to see jungle support, ADC, solo, mid in order for the Xibalba Storm. Anything past that point, I mean, we're getting a little wacky, we're getting a little silly, but even despite the fact that, you know, these teams are 1 and 3, they're out of the contention here for the play-ins, I do think that we're likely to see them take these games very seriously. I know that a lot of these players value this experience and getting that competition at the highest level of play that they're capable of reaching. So you don't want to squander an opportunity like this. Even if there isn't a necessary payout coming your way, it is still valuable just to play good Smite, play against another good team, and get those repetitions in a format where you don't really get this otherwise. I mean, even if you have a scrim where it's the Wardens versus the Storm, there's things that are still left on the table, maybe something you're trying to hide. This is absolutely everything left out here to play on the field.
With Camazotz falling all the way to pick number 10, guys, we are ready for game number 1 between the Storm and the Wardens here as we wrap up the final week of the Smite Challenger Circuit. I'm going to miss you, buddy, you know, because I don't know if people know this or not. Actually, I'm going to give a little, like, insider secret here. I'm going to give some background trading. It'll be fun.
I'm scared.
Okay, so when the amateur casters aren't doing the SCC or SOC or any of the special events that we do as well, Hinduman actually puts us in individual cells underneath the hi-rez studios, and we just kind of sit in the dark and wait for the SCC to start back up again.
We're not supposed to say that on air. They're not supposed to know that.
I'm tired of keeping it to myself. All of these sets are fake. We're not in our apartments. We're not in our homes. These are, if I kick the camera over, it's just 4 or 3 gray walls and then the set behind me. And the people have to know.
Oh, I think that's no. I think Hinduman is very displeased with you there at times, but at least we'll pretend for the time being and then maybe get chastised after the fact. I can't believe that you're sharing our deepest, darkest secrets here on air. And I can't believe how quietly things have started out in this game, Dimes. I mean, we see a lot of early action, a lot of level 2 play in the mid lane, especially when you have something like a Baba Yaga that doesn't traditionally get a movement ability at level 2, can sometimes be a target in the middle lane, but at least this time around, we've managed to cross the 1 minute mark without any blood flying, even in an NA match, Dimes. That is almost unprecedented.
Typically, you see some kind of sparks fly in the early goings in the middle lane, but like you mentioned, quiet on the central front, I suppose. And if you were looking around, I mean, you mentioned Ratmilk, very comfortable on this Pele pick, also hyper mobile, tons of damage, even great early on, even prior to getting that Soul Eater and other items online. If you had to prophesize where we were going to see a first blood happen, I mean, unlikely here in the solo lane, 2 highly survivable gods, but looking toward the mid and the duo, if there's one particular location that you could single out as, okay, keep your eyes peeled for here for the first blood in this game, where would you point?
Based on play styles of the players in the game and also the gods that we have drafted here, I think that it might actually be some kind of ego challenge over a piece of farm that really doesn't matter as much as they're making it out to be between these two junglers. Because
Interesting.
Camazotz is a character that feels really good in the early game for the first couple of levels. You feel like you can take just about any 1v1 you want. Then it kind of falls off until you get some high power online. You have very good scaling as this god. Then late game, once again, you feel like a 1v1 specialist. And Pele's kind of along the same path. I mean, her early damage with the CC chain from the knockup is incredibly high. Then she has a very brief fall off where you got to get a stacking item online, you got to get some additional scaling. And then once again in the late game, you feel like you can 1v1 just about anybody. So with that information in mind, I mean, if Picoways and Ratmilk lock eyes, they might have a Pokemon battle right in the middle of the jungle, and whoever walks out of there is giving up more than just a couple of Poké Dollars.
Dash away there from Tubahh, as the Xibalba Storm have pretty much owned this left side of the lane. Left side of the map, I should say, this dual lane, since the initiation of this game. Just 3 minutes in, though.
And that's weird.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, Tubahh and ELLEON have tons of pressure, but Hapn and Shippigami have been making it happen.
Right, and I feel like I've spent the last couple of weeks times talking about the difference between push pressure for just wave pressure and the difference between that and kill pressure. And it's a good example here of a lane where the Kaolin Wardens, in theory, should have some of the best push pressure that you can get. Tubahh has the AoE auto attacks that clear out the melees very quickly. ELLEON can just spam a whole bunch of bubbles and make sure that gets bursted down in a reasonable amount of time. Their kill pressure until they hit level 5 is actually very low because a lot of those resources have to be on the wave instead of onto the god. Whereas the other way, the Xibalba Storm, as we see Tegveer, he should be fine over here. The Xibalba Storm have a lot of kill pressure. I mean, a lot of crowd control, very high base damage between these two characters. Shippigami on the Anhur in particular, it's one of the reasons that this pick has been prioritized so incredibly highly is for that early fight pressure. And despite that fact, it's the Kaolin Wardens that are kind of being shoved under their tower. And, you know, if you have very good clear, if you have the opportunity to burst those waves before they can get anywhere close to you, one would think at least that that would lend toward the Kaolin Wardens being on the blue side of the map, but a little bit unusual here. So either fair play to Hapn in Shippigami, or maybe we saw something, or we didn't see something that interacted with the way that Ratmilk was maybe on that side of the map, or some kind of early mistake from ELLEON and Tubahh could have contributed to it. It's not incredibly important in the grand scheme of things times. I mean, both of these characters are still going to get all the farm regardless of whether they get every drop of gold or not, but something to keep your eye on over there in the way that that lane's interacting.
An early rotation here from ELLEON making his way over to solo. Same thing goes for Picoways, who's been hanging around this right side more often than not. Tegveer is just so safe on this King Arthur, though, with so much lockdown mobility. I mean, even your auto attacks contribute to how quickly you can get across the map. As ELLEON has teamed up with Picoways and Delnyyy on this right-hand side, it's Tegveer and Ratmilk trying to earn back the blue buff here. Blink away from Ratmilk. Tegveer locked into the wall. What a fantastic River's Rebuke to lock down Tegveer. First blood goes the way of the Kaolin Wardens as the solo lane King Arthur falls and loses a blue buff on the tail end.
And a note that we got from production a little bit earlier that we haven't gotten to bring up yet. It is actually Mr. World Champion ELLEON himself that'll be playing support for the Kaolin Wardens here. Evermed taking the week off and getting some much-needed rest. And ELLEON already showing out on the Yemoja, man. I mean, it's a checkmate situation there if you're Tegveer and you get walled in against your will when you're not anticipating that. ELLEON does an excellent job of hiding himself there, making sure that it just looks like a jungle and solo laner invading that blue buff. No ward coverage for the Xibalba Storm to tell them that perhaps the enemy support might be lurking around as well. So excellent pathing and very intelligent execution of that play there.
Ratmilk responding by moving over to the left-hand side here and stripping away the purple buff from the Kaolin Warden. So buff for buff trade across the width of the map here. As Globe and Ratmilk have backed off to grab some of this neutral farm. And with that initial kill, I mean, is that going to severely affect the solo lane at all? You look at the levels, they're dead even. A couple breastplates online. Sure, you've got a tier 1 item in the form of Delnyyy over Tegveer. But, I mean, how much really is that going to put a King Arthur back with as much clear and pressure as this character brings?
impact on the solo lane for a kill early on is much less in solo potential as it used to be, as we'll see actually a huge fight over here in the dual lane. Ults are forced out everywhere.
ELLEON low, ELLEON out of mana here, or at least the kind of mana Yemoja uses. Ratmilk locked down, slowed. Camazotz into the wall. Picoways up into the bat, out of hell. One shot, two swing, and a three swing from Picoways is going to get the Camazotz out of danger. Everyone walks away scathed, but still above ground.
Very much scathed there, but like you said, everybody does manage to walk on out of there. Going back to your previous question, though, about whether or not this solo kill, or at least this early first blood in the solo lane, will have a large impact. It used to be back in, I don't know, season 3, 4, don't quote me on that because I could be wrong, back when it was Jotun's Wrath into Breastplate and everybody was killing everybody. It was much more impactful if one of these solo laners got that first blood. But here in the current season, we're in Season X of Smite, and solo laners don't really kill each other anymore. I mean, that's opening up the avenue for future blue buff invades. As you can see, Delnyyy is already jockeying for some position to potentially go for one of those as it spawns. But it's much less, I can kill this guy now because he took a spill early, and much more, that opens up the map for some kind of additional opportunity, like, for example, a Gold Fury.
Early, 8 minutes here for the Kaolin Wardens, more of a heat check than anything else. See the response time of the Xibalba Storm. Hapn responds quick enough that the Kaolin Wardens are dissuaded from going any further. And
That's
back
smart.
right off. Only a 400 gold lead here, 8 minutes in, which, I mean, makes sense. You got one first blood. As you mentioned, farm has pretty much been traded across the map evenly. I think that's what you see. I mean, we talked about both these squads being 1 and 3, right? And it's not an insult to say they're at the bottom of the leaderboard. It's just facts.
It's just true.
And I think one of the things, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on it, one of the things that really separates the top of the SEC and the bottom of the SEC is going neutral in kills and farming the map so efficiently that you start collecting a significant gold lead over time just from macro play.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you look at some of our top teams like the Valkyries, for example, who,
Right.
even if they're several kills behind, it seems like they're somehow either even with human gold or magically manifesting some kind of lead. And a lot of that comes from just better map play, understanding these spawn timers of these buffs, what you can and cannot contest, and capitalizing on opportunities without leaving anything on the table. I mean, the Kaolin Wardens there did an excellent example of trying to create an opportunity even when there's no risk associated with it. You want very low risk, very high potential return at this level of play. And going for that Gold Fury was an excellent example of that. I mean, you invade the first blue buff, you get that kill. You already know that the entirety of the Xibalba Storm were thinking, well, my blue buff is respawning. I have to worry about whether or not they're going to be here. And the Wardens are thinking, well, they're going to send people to defend the blue buff. That means we can be on the left side of the map for free. And it doesn't look free right now.
Might be in a good spot here. The Xibalba Storm, that is, as the Terra ultimate is being channeled. GIobe immediately deletes Picoways, and check it out. The ultimate's still online for the Thoth here, as nnog chucks out one of those potions and walks away safely. But Picoways put in the dirt without even an ultimate here from the Thoth.
And they were up to some nefarious purposes in that side of the jungle. I mean, the Wardens sent the support alongside the jungler, which you don't see a whole lot of, at least not in that particular location, as GIobe gets forced out of the mid lane here by Nog's ultimate. But usually if you're going that deep into the enemy jungle, it's your jungler by himself or maybe has a backliner with him there. ELLEON is very far forward alongside his jungler. And unfortunately, they get spotted out very early, which means that Picoways takes a spill off the back of that. The Xibalba Storm understand that's their opportunity. You already got the ult forced out of Nog in the mid lane. You've already got Picoways respawning, walking down the lane. Nobody alive, really, to contest there. So, once again, a very low-risk Gold Fury pull. And this time around, they had the damage required to actually meet the damage check and get the objective, which puts them very small amount in the lead times. I mean, we're not talking anything extraordinary here, but when you're already down 1 kill in the early game and then you're fighting back into that very small deficit, being any small amount of lead up after that point is already impressive against this caliber of team.
As you mentioned, Gold Fury going the way of the Xibalba Storm. You saw Picoways hanging around that left-hand side there. As a jungler, you just can't do that for long, right? You're leaving farm on the table. You're wasting time. You're allowing your enemy jungler to rotate freely. So you got to pick your battles. Picoways decides that's not the one he wants to pick. Backs off. And speaking of junglers, Ratmilk got the Soul Leader online, Jotun's Wrath as well, has an assist. But, from what we've seen out of Ratmilk, just kind of uncharacteristically quiet, not very aggressive in these early goings, waiting for this Jotun's Wrath, as you'll answer that question in just a moment here as the Stygian Beacon is being targeted out by the Xibalba Storm. It's a 3v3 as Nog and ELLEON would love to capitalize. But are currently outnumbered, with Tegveer making the rotation as well. Numbers certainly going the way of the Xibalba Storm. Ticking up, ticking up, ticking up. ELLEON knocked away. The Storm grabbed the first Stygian Beacon of this game.
They do, and now Pico's out of position here, gets knocked up. That's a large chunk of damage, and will amount to forcing out the ultimate from the Bat Out of Hell. But I'm surprised that the Kaolin Wardens didn't opt to pull the trigger out there at any point in time, or maybe position more aggressively in the actual pit, because for basically that entire fight, they had Picoways sitting like a sentry ward on the left-hand side of the map and just waiting for any kind of rotation. And now, actually, it's ELLEON who's in trouble.
Wow, great lockdown from the Xibalba Storm. Off the mark there, GIobe just barely whiffing the final judgment that would have knocked out ELLEON, who escapes just by the skin of his teeth there. The Kaolin Wardens.
What is
keeping
this?
It going on the right-hand side of the lane, though. Tegveer going to fall between the three members of the Kaolin Wardens. The solo laner goes down. And the Kaolin Wardens out a second kill to their slash line, 2-1. And don't recapture the gold lead, but at least draw it pretty dang close to even.
And I'm surprised that, I guess I shouldn't say I'm surprised. It's actually very unusual the way that you have to position your final judgment in order to land that one if you're not shooting through the Thoth wall. Because when you're going through the Glyph of Pain, obviously everything not only goes farther, but it also goes faster. So a lot of times if you're trying to aim an ability a long distance, you're accustomed to shooting through that wall, having the additional speed, not having to guess where a player might be going. But unfortunately for GIobe, the wall expires right before he drops the ultimate there on ELLEON. And even after going through the hoop, he manages to have just enough time to duck to the side there and make sure that he doesn't get clipped by it. That doesn't prevent Tegveer from taking a second spill over in the solo lane. And you'd think that at some point, somebody's going to drop a ward over there for my man Dimes, because Nog makes his way to solo lane, and something tells me that if Tegveer is aware of the fact that there's a Baba Yaga in his lane, he's not going to be interacting with Delnyyy whatsoever. But the fact that Nog steps up, gets the damage off, burns the home sweet home, and lands the kill tells me that more likely than not, that was a surprise play that obviously Tegveer didn't see coming. So once again, an opportunity capitalized on the right-hand side of the map. But here's that thing we were talking about earlier, Dimes. These teams find a way to stay even after a kill deficit. And the Kaolin Wardens are 1 kill up, but Xibalba Storm mostly keeping pace with them. I mean, 400 gold isn't anything that you're going to write home about. You can fight probably on all stages of the map without having to worry too much, which is good for them considering it looks like a Gold Fury fight might be brewing here pretty soon.
Quiet so far here through 15 minutes. Both the Fury respawning. Got an important neutral objective on the map as GIobe burns the Aegis early. Picoways leaping in up into that Bat Out of Hell, swishing through the fight. Meanwhile, Delnnyyy's made the rotation as well, playing havoc here in the backline. Ratmilk deletes Picoways. What an ultimate there out of the jungler. Delnyyy up into that somersault cloud, healing up a little bit. Hapn and Tegveer leading the charge here for the Xibalba Storm. It's going to be a power play for the Storm for the next 18, 17, 16 seconds as Picoways was annihilated there by the combination of GIobe and Ratmilk. Unfortunately for the Storm, fortunately for the Wardens, Storm was chunked down just enough that they can't immediately turn their sights to the Fury.
They are still looking at it, though. Half HP on Hapn, but they are here. The rest of the squad is coming, so the Kaolin Wardens make their way in. They gotta get in here soon, Dimes.
Nog, Tubahh, Delnyyy, everybody from the Wardens are here. The Primal Fury not going down quick as the Xibalba Storm take out the Primal Fury, but they may pay for it as the duo lane here for the Order T has fallen low and locked into place. The River's Rebuke from ELLEON, beautiful to take out the duo lane from the Xibalba Storm, and it's just a matter of follow-up here from the Kaolin Wardens, pushing out Tegveer and Ratmilk. Sure, the Storm grabbed the Fury, but the Kaolin Wardens with a phenomenal follow-up engagement.
Look, this is a little bit of slurping times, but immediately after ELLEON lands that ultimate, I check to see whether or not he was wearing the world champion title, because that's a world champion caliber Yemoja ult right there, catching 3 members out, and possibly, I'd actually say trending toward probably, without that ultimate, the Xibalba Storm just disengaged from that, cleanly getting the Gold Fury and then making their way out like bandits in the night, but instead, several kills going with the way of the Wardens, opening up this Pyromancer.
Pyromancer going down to the Kaolin Wardens. It was a close one, but the Chaos Squad securing it. Ratmilk takes out ELLEON to kick things off. There's a second for the jungler, falling low. Delnyyy putting the finishing touches on the Pele. Nog forced out. It's Delnyyy, who's plenty tanky, taking on Tegveer and Hapn. And once again, it's back and forth. One team grabs an objective, the other team grabs a kill. The Kaolin Wardens have amassed a 3,000 gold lead here as we approach the end of the mid-game. 17, you know what? We're dead even in the mid-game. Yeah. I'd say we're right smack in the middle at just about 18 minutes. Order side grabs the Stygian Beacon. The Xibalba Storm claw back a little bit of objective play here as we approach 18 minutes. And once again, just dead even, or not dead even, but getting closer to even as both these teams are back and forth.
That last fight, though, definitely broke things open in favor of the Kaolin Wardens. I mean, if they don't get those kills on the left-hand side of the map, then just trading Gold Fury for Pyromancer would have been a flash in the pan that we don't really have to talk about. But because they do end up getting out cleanly after their own objective, while punishing the Xibalba Storm for taking theirs, that does definitely mean that they are pretty heavily favored in that engagement. A lot of times around objective fights, it can be messy, it can be sloppy, it's difficult to determine who actually ended up coming out on top, but this time it is unequivocally the Kaolin Wardens who are going to be killing GIobe unless Ratmilk has something to say about it.
Phenomenal Aegis from GIobe delays the death for just a second. What a shell! Oh my goodness, GIobe stays alive. Ratmilk turns it back around onto Picoways. Might be in a tough spot here. ELLEON once again with a phenomenal set of walls crashing down on the Xibalba Storm. Knocked up in the air by the King Arthur, who's made the rotation as well. Shippigami leaps over the wall to safety. And GIobe and Ratmilk somehow hanging on to their lives.
And both of them on a sliver of HP. GIobe potentially single-digit, definitely double-digit in that engagement, manages to sneak out. You're right to call out the shell there because that was the only reason that he ends up living there. Perhaps alongside the excellent re-engage, the counter-engage that came in from Ratmilk there. And it feels like once again, Dimes, I mean, it's a fairly balanced team fight. Doesn't seem to go one way or the other. But each time we have one of those interactions, it seems like Picoways is the only one to take a spill in these engagements. Yep. He's died 4 times of the 5 kills that the Xibalba Storm have. It's not your best look for the jungle. I mean, a character like Camazotz in particular is a very good, I liken it to an entry fragger in a competitive shooter where you go in, you understand, I'm probably dying here, but I'm going to get some good initiation off. He might do some more of it here.
Shippigami leaps away. Picoways follows right behind him, but who is here but Ratmilk? Shippigami low. Shippigami able to walk away. Picoways. I mean, you see Ratmilk and you immediately have to hit the exit button. Ratmilk able to use that ultimate for a little bit of mobility as well. You got Hapn and GIobe backing you up. It's a 4v4 here on the left-hand side. Picoways doesn't have much to his name, though. Nice leap over that stun from the Terra walls. It's going to be a clean disengage with the Oni Fury lurking here on the left side of the map.
Shouldn't look to pull the trigger too soon, though. If you take a look in the right lane, the big old beefy dudes are over there brawling it out for next to no reason. And typically, you don't pull a 4v4 objective unless you can get your solo laner over there sooner than the opposition, or you have some kind of imbalanced advantage. Maybe the Kaolin Wardens felt like they were the ones on the receiving end of that imbalance because the Xibalba Storm certainly could have at least tried it with how low Pico was, with the fact they didn't have the ultimate available, but clearly saw something that they didn't like. Maybe were afraid of a re-engage or a teleport coming over from the solo laner, which means that instead we're going to go back to farming for at least a little bit here, Dimes. I mean, we've got some level 20s taking over here. Delnyyy and Nog both making that mark very soon here. XP certainly still relevant. It doesn't really fall off until just about everybody other than the supports are level 20. This is just about as good of a time as it can be to hit that level cap and get that starter item online. We'll see what the Kaolin Wardens can actually do to manifest that lead into something more important, because this is certainly their power play here. A Pyromancer's a good start, but now that you got that one under your belt, I'd like to see them go immediately to this Oni Fury, even trying to force a fight around the Fire Giant, because they do have a pretty reasonable lead in the items, even if the golden XP doesn't reflect it.
Xibalba Storm listening into comms here. Head right to the Oni Fury Globe, using the ultimate to try to snag the Pyromancer, though, means that Secure is going to be down. Nog forced into the home sweet home early. Hapn locked into place, immediately pops the shell to escape the River's Rebuke, and is just chunked down here by the Kaolin Wardens. Delnyyy, meanwhile, playing the frontliner, Picoways snags another kill on a Ratmilk. That's 2 down for the Xibalba Storm. Tegveer is trying to run away as fast as those King Arthur legs will let him, as Delnyyy chases down the King Arthur here. Picoways right behind him as well, blinks in aggressively. Globe able to use the Aegis, but Picoways has that incredibly mobile ultimate.
Tough.
One more auto attack out of Picoways would have done it. But Globe, I mean, look at literally on the left-hand side, Globe went gray for a second.
Right.
The game thought Globe was dead. Somehow escapes the underworld yet again.
And that is courtesy of Breastplate of Valor, that third item that the Xibalba Storm mid laner has. If you feel like you've seen a lot of these in a lot of different places, then, well, you're probably right, because this item is incredibly good, to the point that people are picking it up on backliner roles. Not only mid laners that get at least some value from it, they get additional power on their Book of Thoth because it does have mana on it, but also even the ADCs are picking this up sometimes. We're seeing a lot of junglers grab it as well. And that's because the upgrade, that glyph for Breastplate of Valor, is so cost effective for giving you so incredibly many protections. If we can actually hover over one of those Breastplates of Determination that looks like a couple of different people on the Xibalba Storm has, that is 28 additional protections of each side, Dimes. Not just physical on a physical item. You're also getting magical protections when you take damage. That's something insane like 80 to 100 procs once that gets doubled, and then even more than that once you get that proc effect that also gives you movement speed. You could take out the second half of that paragraph, the part where it says, oh, well, after you reach max stacks, it's doubled and you gain movement speed. No one cares about that. It is only the fact that it gives you an exorbitant amount of protections for 2,800 gold. It's a nuts level item, and that's the only reason that Globe ends up living there. Just enough protections to keep him alive through the dive of Picoways, which means that, unfortunately, they don't get that kill. Don't really need it, mind you, but does at least give them something to hope for if you're a Xibalba Storm fan.
Kaizo wouldn't be surprised if that item gets a look taken at it here in the
You think?
in the coming future.
That's a hot take, buddy.
Have grouped up on the right-hand side here and kick things off against the Xibalba Storm, kicking off potentially a Fire Giant fight as we approach 25 minutes. Got a lot of level 20s on the board here for the Kaolin Wardens. Build starting to hit that critical mass point where damage is being pumped out here. Globe trying to pump out some damage of his own. Little off the mark there with that first Thoth ability. Delnyyy moving forward here in the Tiger form. Grabs a stun. Not a ton of follow-up. Interesting ultimate there out of Globe. Kind of a curious usage. Honestly, not sure I could... I don't think I can reconcile that one. Delnyyy has the ultimate. That's just a free regeneration. You're never going to get a kill on the tanky Sun Wukong.
And now we got Titans over here, Dimes, to deal with, and this could be an opportunity for the Wardens to push into this tower. You can see the dives around the backside. They might want the fight, but they don't give it to him. Fire Giant also an option here, and it looks like the Xibalba Storm will perhaps smartly opt to back up and allow that tower to go down. But that gives the Warden a lot of time to make their way to this Fire Giant. Somebody's got to be here contending with the Titan, which means the Wardens are in the Fire Giant pit.
Globe ultimate still down here for the Thoth. And the Kaolin Wardens elect to hop off the Fire Giant and hop on to the Xibalba Storm. Hapn driven out early. Tegveer trying to run away as well. Create space for the Xibalba Storm to either reinitiate around the back. It's exactly what Ratmilk's trying to accomplish, but Hapn falls too quickly. Tegveer does take out Picoways in the meantime, but Ratmilk dives for and pays for it. Globe turns at least one around. Tegveer knocking up ELLEON. Globe with a second. This is a clean re-engagement here from the Kaolin Wardens. Looks pretty good for the Chaos Squadron, with the Xibalba Storm have come out on top.
And they're going to have to reset here, but actually good grab there from Shippigami, making sure nobody's teleporting anytime soon. They will have to reset, but they've got a good 20 seconds plus before anybody other than Delnyyy is going to be back available for the Kaolin Wardens. And 1v3, bar any heroics from Delnyyy, this should be a fire giant. But the only reason the Storm are in this position is Ratmilk got a spectacular re-engage there during that fight. He blinks in and knocks up 3 different people. GIobe, we questioned the use of the Thoth ult in right lane, but he gets excellent follow-up on everybody that gets crowd-controlled by Ratmilk. The pair of them just did so much damage to the entirety of the backline of the Wardens and one other person, and now it's just Delnyyy here to play defense.
Trying to at least buy time to allow the rest of the Kaolin Wardens to go in. Delnyyy up into the air to that somersault cloud. Gonna wait to time it out. The Kaolin Wardens! Delnyyy plays it perfect! Smashes down, snags the fire giant under the nose of the Xibalba Storm. And now the rest of the Wardens are here to play havoc on the Storm.
A blink in here from Pico for the chase, and he's gonna go up into the bat out of hell. GIobe is gonna be in trouble here.
GIobe's getting low. Aegis already burning. Somehow he once again escapes. Oh, what a catch from ELLEON. Tubahh snagging the double kill. ELLEON says, I'll take one. Thank you very much. Kaolin Wardens with a fire giant and a 3-piece. Turn it right back around. Immediately head to this tier 2 tower. Might even grab a firebird for their trouble. ELLEON healing up the squad. It's 5 members with 3 members of the Xibalba Storm down for the count for another 20 seconds. The Kaolin Wardens might just march their way down mid lane here. The Phoenix has fallen. Titan is exposed. It's just Tegveer and Shipigami playing defense here for the Xibalba Storm. Kaolin Wardens on the Titan, half HP. It's going to be a reset though. In the meantime, Picoways has taken out Shipigami. It's just Tegveer. Hapn has made the rotation as well. Tegveer able to escape. Kaizo, Titan falling. Kaolin Wardens take game number 1.
Wow, that was quite the turnaround there from the Kaolin Wardens to not only bounce back after getting their own fire giant push taken away from them, the fact that Delnyyy gets in there and manages to stall long enough for the rest of his team to show up and times it perfectly with the Sun Wukong somersault cloud to steal that one away. I mean, you can't script a comeback any better than that.
I'm not, you know what? I question this.
Me.
Delnyyy, that play from Delnyyy gets a tail shake.
This is the moment I've been waiting for. Yeah.
That's the highest honor I can bestow upon an incredible play from the solo laner. You buy tie, you grab the fire giant, and the rest of the squad just marches down middle lane. It takes game number 1, as I likely will not have a job after this evening. I mean, you look down the
You'll have a
lines.
different kind of job done. That's for sure.
It's a different website. You look down the slash lines. I mean, 2-2 Tegveer, 4-4 Ratmilk, 3-2 GIobe. This was not a clean game. I want to be clear, Kaizo.
Sure.
This was a discombobulated game. The lead changed times, I think 7 or 8 times it felt like. And honestly, the Kaolin Wardens kind of marching down mid in a surprising fashion. You know, they just took advantage of a clean play, but it's not like they choked out the Storm. It's not like they grabbed every objective on the map. They just kind of won at the end. You know what I mean?
They won one very good fight around the Gold Fury, and then they got a very fortunate opportunity where GIobe marginally off the mark for the timing for the final judgment, which was used there in the Fire Giant pit, and obviously Delnyyy does still land at the perfect time to scoop up that opportunity. It's not like it was spoon-fed to him, but something definitely left on the table there for the Storm that gonna need to clean that up in game number 2 if you want to be able to extend this set to a game number 3.
It's one of those games you just kind of like wipe your hands of it, you shake it off, and you move on to the next one. We're going to move on to game number 2 in just a few. Stick around.
The connection has been lost. All of the online networks are down. Biotechnology has been successfully implemented. The new era has begun.
say that life's too short to be holding this tight. So why am I walking light? And in this world of light and color, I'm not afraid of the night when this future's so bright. Yeah, I got all these friends and we're like, it's not the end. Whoa, this new world is ours. This new world is ours, and all these friends, and we're like, it's not the end. Whoa, this new world is ours. This new world is ours. This new world is ours. They say the life's too short, and I can feel in my bones. The horizon is close now, and the world's been changing lately.
Yowdy, folks. Welcome back into the Smite Challenger Circuit. You got Dimes, you got Kaizo, and we had a game number one between the Xibalba Storm and the Kaolin Wardens that went kind of goofy, a little topsy-turvy. Changed leads about 7 times, in case you weren't here to witness it. A random fire giant steal out of the solo laner Delnyyy led to the Titan falling. And I think that just about sums it up. So, you know, it's one of those games you kind of just got to shake off. You got to move on from, wipe the middles, and move ahead. So, because we don't really have to discuss the game too much, I am curious. So I'm obviously a squirrel, right? For Halloween, I had a whole costume, but this was like the base layer of it.
Sure.
What is your costume?
I am a superhero, actually. I'm glad that you asked. Age-appropriate beverage, man. I can snap my fingers and instantly teleport to any legal social gathering where people are enjoying themselves in moderation.
All right. Damage control. Love it. Is that DC or Marvel?
Wait, can I say it's independent. It's freelance, buddy. Don't worry about it.
Do I have to pay money now? Is that cover? Oh man.
Disney, right. Get him.
Not the Picks and Pants game number 2. Yeah, thank God. All right. There's a hesitation. Like we're going into P's and B's, right? I mean, okay, so we're talking adjustments from game number 1, just in terms of composition. It didn't feel like either comp was like there was a giant hole. Didn't feel like there was a gap or like they were misplaying. It was just, I hesitate to say sloppy games, but it was just kind of uncoordinated in some engagements and some states of the game. But the compositions themselves looked very tenable.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I don't think that game. So there are some times where you can look at a picks and bans like once it's all done and say one of these teams is very clearly winning. Like hypothetically, if the Wardens were to lock in 5 assassins and then the Storm pick a real composition, you're probably going, well, the Wardens are not going to come away with this one. But that wasn't the case in game number 1. I think that it was also shown on the field that both of these compositions we had previously were very well balanced. I think that you used the phrasing that there wasn't any holes. I definitely agree with that. It really felt like the only big difference between the two compositions as it pertains to God picks was ELLEON on the Yemoja. Looked fantastic. I mean, some very clutch walls to get that first blood, to get that critical fight on the left-hand side of the map around the Gold Fury. Everything else feels like, you know, maybe a different character could have had the same or comparable impact, but they do give him the option to go back to the Yemoja. They do pick up the number 1 best support. I'm number 1 ranked on this character, Dimes, the Athena.
I mean, it didn't go the wayside, so you have to snag it first, right? Instead, the Storm, rather, elect to ban out the Pele. Everything else stays the same. Set, Raijin, Freya go for the Wardens. The Athena left unbanned. Got to snag it. Baba Yaga and Yemoja. I mean, why would you not just run it right back?
Right.
Love the Baba Yaga pickup. It's always going to be solid. ELLEON kind of smoked the Storm with the Yemoja walls. Looked great. And look, my cousin,
Here you go, Dimes.
the
Here you go.
Ratatasker. Please lock
This is
it
what
in.
you were waiting for.
I just thought it would be so poetic if Ratatasker's been so in vogue lately, you know. So I was just waiting for the Ratatasker to be
Baited and outplayed.
I know you can do better.
You look like a fool right now. You look real silly with your eyes and your nose on top of your head. You look like quite the goofball, Dimes, now don't you? He's having a moment. So let's talk about the Xibalba Storm draft, because they do pick up that Athena, which typically teams will suggest is the #1 support right now. It's very good rotation potential, excellent engage, punishes you for not having relics available, and then they immediately go, well, things didn't go so well for us. Let's go back to what we're comfortable with. And Tegveer is as comfortable as anybody else in the game on this Achilles. It is his absolute favorite pick to pilot. And I think Shippigami on this Ishtar, not necessarily the first god that comes to mind when I think of him, but certainly one that alongside this Athena, that's an excellent push lane over there, and they can fight over the shield buff pretty reliably. You can rotate that lane very effectively. A very strong top 3 here for the Storm. And again, the draft, game 1 wasn't really the problem. It was more on the field that the game was decided. But if we're picking one of these teams to be the favorite just here in the draft times, I really like what the Storm have already.
So far, definitely the feel. It feels different than the original composition that was drafted in game #1. The Wardens, however, feel the exact same. I mean, Delnyyy says,
Yeah.
Stole a fire giant with Sun Wukong. Give me the Sun
And
Wukong.
I still get to play it?
Hunbots, Apwash, bye-bye. Meanwhile, a jungler and a solo laner / jungler in the form of Nike goes the wayside as well for the Storm. And with Ishtar being picked up, no surprise, Anhur gets the snag here from the Wardens. Who else are you going to go to? Yemoja Anhur. Now, you said you like this Athena Ishtar lane. Yemoja Anhur kind of schmacks as well.
Yeah, that's spooky. And that's a definite kill lane over there.
Spooky's casting. He casted yesterday.
Oh, spooky. That's a spooky joke, bro. You're better than that, Dimes. I expect so much more from you. And I expect a lot out of this Ratmilk, or out of this Thor, because Ratmilk, he looks incredibly good on this pick. I think that this is one of the premier picks for him, in my particular opinion. I think that of the characters I've seen Ratmilk play, the Daji, they actually end up banning away from themselves. But between Thor and Daji, I don't think that I'd want to see him on just about anything else. And GIobe going back to, I wouldn't call it a signature Zeus, because this guy actually has a very diverse god pool, but as far as picks that I've seen GIobe in particular play at a level that nobody else in the SEC is really piloting, Zeus is definitely in that conversation. So I think the Storm obviously here took the game 1 loss and said, all right, we're going right back to the comfort picks. Give us everything that we want. The Wardens kind of gave it to him.
The Wardens round out their draft with the Camazotz that looked so nice on Picoways, and we're ready for game #2, potentially the last game here in phase 2 of the Smite Challenger Circuit. So we need to savor this one, guys. So we really need to dig in and, you know,
Yeah, can we pause actually?
just take a deep breath with me right now. I mean, this is a moment, you know, just breathe in, breathe out. And then once you're done, I want to talk about Picoways on this Camazotz. Obviously saw in game #1.
Ew.
What?
What do you mean, what? Look at his build, bro. He's got his starter in the wrong location.
Okay, you freaked me out. All right.
2 people on their team have their starter in the wrong location.
Yeah.
Is that disqualifiable? Can we DQ them for doing that?
You used to. I think, you know, someone. I know there used to be a player. Don't think they're around anymore. I can't remember who it was, but intentionally always built like that. And it was just the most like uncomfortable, unprofessional. Honestly, I would call it unprofessional. I mean, no appeal for the aesthetics.
Obviously not. I mean, it's just fundamentally in the wrong location. It's like the people who get Aegis in their first slot and beads in their second slot. There's just no redeeming people like that. But, I mean, they did still win game #1, so we can't completely discredit them. Obviously, these guys have at least some idea what they're doing, but very clearly to me, Dimes, it was some kind of fluke based on the way that you're already starting out on the wrong foot.
All right, so I do have a question for you. A
Okay.
genuine Smite-related question. As Delnyyy
Sure.
is chunked down here by Tegveer. We saw GIobe in game number 1 escape by the skin of his teeth 3 times with maybe single double-digit XP, or excuse me, HP, right? And including the use of Aegis. That's on a Thoth that can dash away what feels like half the lane length pretty much at will, right? Sure, it's
Right.
a longer cooldown, a lot of mobility. Picoways gave everything they had to follow up with the blink, the bat out of hell, etc., right? Now you put GIobe on a god like Zeus with literally 0 mobility. Picoways maintains the same amount of mobility as game number 1. How does GIobe have to play this differently, and what can Picoways do to capitalize on the lack of movement from the Zeus?
It is a vastly different playstyle between the Thoth and the Zeus, because as a Thoth, you want to kind of disappear into the team fight and play it as far away as you possibly can. If you can cast over a wall, that's the ideal circumstance, so you can keep as far away from danger as possible. But on the Zeus, you don't really get that luxury. None of your relevant cooldowns, at least, will go over a wall. You have to be very close to melee range to get a lot of your core damage off. And Lightning Storm is not the worst self-peel tool, but generally is better served as a space creation tool or to herd the enemy team into a particular corridor. GIobe on this Zeus is going to be very comfortable with the concept of potentially taking a spill if it means that he can get a good payoff for his team.
Picoways going to work on Tegveer here. It's falling so low. A phenomenal wall, but it also locks Tegveer in. It's going to be enough out of Ratmilk, though, to push out Picoways and Delnyyy, who would love to find one of those long Jingu bangs over the wall to take out Tegveer. A timely rotation from Ratmilk keeps the solo laner alive, and first blood off the board here for at least 3 minutes in game number 2.
And that's a weird disconnect from Delnyyy and Pico there, because Delnyyy backs up and starts clearing the wave as though everything is all said and done, as Picoways is actively auto-attacking down the enemy solo laner. I feel like if Delnyyy doesn't walk away there, they probably get that kill. It's definitely not guaranteed. I mean, Tegveer is very tanky on this Achilles start and the breastplate start, as most of our warriors will do if they're against another physical character. But it definitely would have been close, and it's definitely a whole lot better than starting out getting soloed here in the solo lane. Tegveer gets this Achilles banned and picked away from him for a reason, Dimes, and I think we might be seeing a little bit of why here.
Turns it right back around. Picoways and Delnyyy were trying to combine for first blood, and Tegveer says, actually, I think I will. Thank you very much. Like you mentioned, a first blood solo kill here in the solo lane. And you said it last game. We see so little action here in the solo lane. Just slap boxing, really. That a solo kill is impressive. And sure, only breastplates online. It's not like they're fully stacked up or anything, but it's still close margins, which means that Tegveer likely had to play that mechanically perfectly.
Yeah, and definitely landing the execute, and that should probably go without saying here. And Delnyyy does have a unusual matchup into the Achilles playing the Sun Wukong, because traditionally your ultimate ability as Sun Wukong isn't supposed to leave you particularly vulnerable. You usually use that and it's a long duration of CC immunity, and then obviously you banish yourself up into the cloud afterward. And usually when you're doing that, you feel pretty safe. But actually, against something like this Achilles, if you're just walking around and he knows that you can't cancel that in any way to get a burst of movement from a dash or something, it can leave you very vulnerable to something like an execute because you're moving in a predictable pattern.
Tubahh, oh, loved that use of the CC, but is it going to be enough? The answer is no. Immediately kicks off the Desert Fury, though, for the CC, cancels it. Unfortunately, Ratmilk had just enough follow-up to put the enemy ADC in the ground. Pico still hanging around here on the shield buff. ELLEON and the Camazotz want to make something happen. Unlikely to do so, though. Shippigami looking pretty decent here with the Dev's Gloves online. Ratmilk obviously not stacking anything, just has a full-on Jotun's Wrath. And everyone always forgets the Thor passive, right? In early game, it makes a huge difference.
Certainly does, and he's using it to good effect here on ELLEON. The Yemoja ultimate comes out and will give him an escape route, but Pico's in as well.
Oh, Picoways is feeling themselves here in game number 2. Unfortunately, quite healthy are the Xibalba Storm, and a bat out of hell away gets Picoways out of danger. The Bulba Storm still have the 2 kills to their name, but don't find any more.
Okay.
Shippigami dashes forward in an immediate impale out of Tubahh, going to allow the Xibalba Storm duo lane to escape to the relative safety of the tower.
And the Storm are up 2-0, but I'd be worried if I were the Storm. Or, wait, the Storm, yes. Because the I'm just looking at the top, and I felt like I don't know, deja vu or something. But I would definitely be concerned if I was Shinigami, because Tubahh is cooking this game on this Anhur. He plays that gank in left lane perfectly when he gets dunked on by the Thor. I mean, the 1 second of CC immunity as the ult lands, immediately turning around, going for the impale, does everything right. Unfortunately, Ratmilk also does everything right there and uses his own crowd control immunity in the form of the Berserker Barrage to prevent himself from being pushed away. Tubahh also uses beads at the perfect moment on the Athena taunt. I mean, the execution is certainly there. We got to see it again. There is the immediately impale Shinigami out of the dash and prevents anybody from getting picked by that Athena ult play. So despite the fact that they're down, I mean, they are certainly still feeling a lot of the momentum from the previous game, I would assume. Tubah's not playing scared in any way, despite the pressure that he's under so far in the early stages of this one, which is a pretty good sign, because you do not want to play a scared Anhur. That's like playing, I don't know, an early aggressive Ao Kuang. It just doesn't work as well.
Actually, Kazo, the execution is in right lane. The Achilles is in right lane.
Am I casting with Spooky right now?
I don't know, dude. It's like his spirit's like channeling through my body. It might be the first suit.
Well, it might be time to exercise then.
You just call me? Are you body shaming me?
X or size with an O. You know, the Halloween-y kind of thing. And Hapn might be getting a little spooky over here. I tried to transition that and nothing.
Yeah, I waited to dig me out of a hole in that one, though.
Yeah.
Ratmilk snagging the blue buff here on the right-hand side. And, you know, sometimes you just got to dig yourself into a hole and then out of a hole to feel alive. You know, and in a game like this, where there's only 2 kills, it's 8 minutes. I mean, gold is dang near dead even. We've got an 800 division between the Xibalba Storm and the Xibalba Storm. It's quiet. You know, Picoways in game number 1. We mentioned as Hapn wants to make something happen here in the middle lane. Unfortunately, ELLEON has that Riptide just on lock at any given moment. Double tap only snags one of those harpies, by the way. Picoways able to grab 2. And I thought we were going to see a little bit more activity around the map. I mean, one of the reasons you primarily pick up this Athena is for that global ultimate, right? You start channeling it, you dash in aggressively, and we really haven't. I mean, the one time we've seen it was on the left-hand side. Now, heading toward the middle lane with Pico falling low, able to use the CC immunity from the ultimate to immune the taunt there.
Okay.
ELLEON turns it right back around on
Ratmilk.
Enough from the home sweet home. No, and so tanky. I mean, look at that. Thor crashed down, and Nog took literally 0 damage as the Chief Centaur takes out Pico in the backline. I mean, how the Chief Centaur must have wrapped around all the way under the tier 2 tower to get that deep in the enemy jungle.
I don't want to know what's happening in this one, man. This is like a fever dream of a game. We're watching the Xibalba Storm play the Xibalba Storm, and people are dying to NPCs on the map. I mean, this is not your everyday Smite. You can tell that we're 2 days away from Halloween itself, All Hallows Eve, because this is getting real unusual. And Hapn, you're totally right. I mean, usually we see this Athena perhaps a little bit more active early. The more you can use that ultimate ability, rotate around the map, and catch people off guard with numbers, the better. We have seen a couple of instances there. He saves Globe and sets up for a very delayed kill on Picoways, if I can even give that kind of credit to that play. And certainly tried his best in the duel lane. I mean, if Tubahh doesn't make that impale away onto Shinigami at the perfect moment, might have been an additional kill over there as well. So it's not for want of trying from Hapn, but it is worth noting that because he's trying to be so active, he's actually falling a good bit behind his opposition here. ELLEON is level 10, whereas Hapn only level 8.
Picoways, the enemy, or the recipient, I should say, of the double tap, immediately gets locked down, and Shinigami with a backflip to put the finishing touches on the Camazotz. A dunk in here from Ratmilk. Great CC immunity there from the home sweet home to immune the wall. And nnog able to escape the wrath of the Thor. But a third kill in the column here for the Xibalba Storm. And that was just, I wouldn't even call it a misplay from Picoways. You could see him hugging the wall, looking for that jump out, just unable to find it.
It's really tough around those middle corridors because those walls are incredibly chunky. I mean, we very specifically added additional depth to those walls to make that kind of play a little bit more difficult. And something like the Camazotz jump that doesn't go particularly far. I mean, a little bit farther than it used to, but certainly not something like, I don't know, an Anhur jump over the wall, for example. So a very unfortunate death there for Picoways, but we saw him die, I think, 4 times in, less than 15 minutes in game number 1, and certainly didn't deter him there, and I doubt that it would do anything much the same here in game number 2. He's still playing aggressively, still going in, still actually has a small lead, in fact, over Ratmilk, just ticks over to level 11, where Ratmilk is playing footsies with the Yemoja here in the left lane at level 10. I don't know where he's getting all this farm from. It's not Chief Centaur, because that guy definitely fights back, but he's getting it somewhere, and apparently it's off of Tegveer.
Xibalba Storm puts the first kill of their game in their pocket with a gank and a Pico on the right-hand side. Delnyyy and Picoways combined to take out Tegveer. And something else I wanted to point out, we're approaching 13 minutes. We made it successfully through the early game as Tubahh's locked down here by the swords out of Shippigami. That's a ton of damage. You got to stack Dev's Gloves and Executioner. Shippigami showing off the Ishtar there in the left-hand lane. Able to put some shots into the tower as well. Might even grab the tier 1 in the duo lane. As this middle beacon is being fought over now. It's just ELLEON versus 3, make it 4 with Tegveer using the teleport as well. nnog and Picoways. No ultimate for nnog. Pico has that bat out of hell. And the Xibalba Storm likely to give this Stygian beacon to the Xibalba Storm.
And Xibalba Storm are probably smart to do that because the entire time the Xibalba Storm solo laner is in right lane. Delnyyy pushing down that tower in right, answering back the one in left, but that opens up a Gold Fury here, Dimes.
And it goes the way of the Xibalba Storm. As Tegveer and Shippigami are falling low. Can you catch it for a second? Okay, one goes down, Shippigami dies for the next 20 seconds, and everyone else is fine. Life is good.
Can we see the
All right,
graphs,
to be clear,
please?
To be clear, the left-hand order squad is the Xibalba Storm. I want to make that clear.
Yes.
The
actual
right side
Xibalba
Chaos
Storm.
Squad is the Kaolin Wardens. Just
Yes.
everyone
And
on the
if,
same page.
as we see this Pyromancer contested here, Dimes, I'd like to actually point out the fact that ELLEON is getting bursted and deleted here by Ratmilk and the combination of the rest of the boys going up into the air, trying to land on Delnyyy. He's already out of there, though, and Pico blinks away as well.
What a nice blink from Pico there to get out of the Anvil of Dawn. Delnyyy might be in a tough spot here, falling low. Actually, I got juked. That was a clone. as GIobe takes out the clone with the detonate. But ELLEON does fall, deleted, like you mentioned, the Xibalba Storm. The real Xibalba Storm.
Yes,
Have
not the
tons
Kaolin
of
Wardens.
Right. Have tons of damage online, and I wanted to talk about this. I mean, I was going to mention it earlier before that fight kicked off. We're past the early game. We're straight into the mid game here. GIobe has 0 deaths on the board. Thoth, or Book of Thoth, rather, stacked up. Got a little bit of tankiness from the breastplate. Divine Ruin online, penetration, anti-heal. GIobe is doing the thing. Made it unscathed through the early game. And I was going to ask you, is that a misplay from the Kaolin Wardens not targeting out this? I mean, it's straight up a win condition. Zeus can win a game for you single-handedly.
The problem with the way that Zeus is played at a high level, though, is that the people who are actually picking him are very comfortable with positioning themselves effectively in a situation with, oh my god, Delnyyy is, the whole team is here.
And Athena has made the rotation as well. The execute goes off for the second time this game, and Delnyyy is once again the target of the Achilles
There's
ultimate.
5 people here, Dimes.
Yeah, there absolutely are. Well, it's going to be 4 in just a second as the Athena makes their way back to base. Same thing goes for Tegveer as well, but you got a tier 1 tower dropping on the right-hand side of the lane. And it looks like the Xibalba Storm are not quite done pushing on this side of the map. GIobe triggering the back. Shippigami might be in a tight spot here. Pico electing not to go in.
Wow.
I would have jumped in there if I was the Camazotz. I'm not, I'm not.
You'd die. Right.
I would die. I would
Yeah,
die.
for sure.
But it was very enticing.
Yeah. And I think that you could be forgiven at least for going for that as Shinigami splits off there with the pathing. I do want to circle back around to your question, though, Dimes, about GIobe and whether or not being able to kill him in the early game was a mistake for the Kaolin Wardens. And it really does come down to the positioning of players that are comfortable picking Zeus. Because not everybody is going to be picking Zeus. A lot of mid laners find comfort in the safety tools that some of these characters have. Something like a Baba Yaga that has a jump available to her, itemizes defense effectively, can get CC immunity. Other people like GIobe just say, give me Beads Aegis and I'll be all right in the mid lane.
And just fine. And that, I mean, 2 ultimates used. ELLEON used the River's Rebuke, and Home Sweet Home was used by the Baba Yaga as well. And a Beads Aegis, in fact, not even the Beads, just an Aegis at a GIobe, perfectly timed. And the Zeus able to walk away from that double feature gank in the middle lane. Hapn wants to keep it rolling here on ELLEON, who gets chunked down by Tegveer, who is officially online. The execute once again finds home, and ELLEON finds the 2nd death of his game here, as the Xibalba Storm rack up a 6th kill to their name and a 3,000 gold.
And Oni Fury is respawning here, and several members of the Xibalba Storm are around. The Wardens have the vision around this objective, so they will at least know that this one's going down, Dimes, but doesn't look like anybody's going to elect to step up and attempt to steal this one away. Delnyyy is going to be grabbing some farm in right lane, looking to invade some of those camps, and will actually spot out the fact that the speed buff is spawning, so a small moral victory, perhaps, for the Kaolin Wardens, but definitely the main prize going the way of the Xibalba Storm, who have kind of taken the game by the horns in the last couple of minutes. I mean, it's been a lot of nothing, and then very suddenly, a lot of this.
Oh, Picoways might be in a spot of trouble here. The Thor electing to dunk down onto the Anhur over here in Tubahh. The double tap not even necessary as the initial hit from the hammer sends the Anhur to the graveyard. Delnyyy able to walk out of danger here. Hapn wants to keep it rolling in the middle lane. And a home sweet home from Nog, able to immune that taunt and a potential taunt that was coming on the way. But Tubahh is down on the ground for the next 20 seconds or so, and Pico takes a ton of damage. One more execute off the mark. Tegveer finally whiffs at least one, and a Riptide gets Pico out of danger. But the Xibalba Storm with plenty of positioning and bodies to secure this beacon.
First answer back from the Wardens here, and actually ELLEON gets taunted in, bursted down with CC chain. Aegis comes out from the Yemoja and will save his life there. And not the worst idea in the world, Dimes. I mean, allows you to immune the burst damage off the Athena taunt and also prevent you from getting executed. Can they take the fight on the Pyro, though?
River's Rebuke back online. Picoways taunted in by Hapn. River's Rebuke in the backline, and GIobe deletes ELLEON. Up in the air goes the Thor. Pico likely the target here in the backline. Waiting. Smashing down onto nobody there as the Delnyyy clone gets sent back to the Master with a little bit of CC as well. The Kaolin Wardens have opened the door for a Pyromancer, and with only a few members of the Xibalba Storm to answer, Kaolin Wardens able to secure the neutral objective and climb the lead to only 2,500. And I want to talk about the elephant in the room here, Kaizo.
Okay.
The Xibalba Storm had a several thousand gold lead in game number 1.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? A gold lead for either one of these squads doesn't feel real just because of the conditions of game number 1. We've seen a gold lead by both teams get sent back and forth and thrown, right? So it almost doesn't feel like we can put a ton of stock in the gold in this game number 2.
Sure, I think that that's a pretty reasonable outlook to have, and we're, again, not talking a 7, 8, 9,000 gold lead, at which point it feels almost inevitable that you might transition that into something more. It's very small, but it's going to get bigger here as they bring down ELLEON once more. Tubahh is also in danger, but will end up jumping on out of there. Only a couple of thousand gold dimes is not the end of the world at 20 minutes. It's the difference of knocking down a tier 1 tower. It's a good shutdown onto Shiπigami if they can find it. Blink in from Pico.
Shiπigami with a backflip locked into place. Here's some CC. And Pico up into the air takes out Shiπigami for the 2nd death of the Xibalba Storm's Hunter and the 4th kill for the Kaolin Wardens. And I got to ask, does the kills going on Pico, I mean, you got one on Tubahh and one on Delnyyy, is that does that ring any bells for you? Is that like really saying anything on, because the Kaolin Wardens only have 4 kills. Is it helpful that it's on your jungler, or is it pretty much null at this point?
With the way that Pico plays, I definitely think that giving him any amount of golden XP over his opposition is going to be worthwhile. Because Pico is a very aggressive player. He's very much the, I will go in, I will kill one guy and a half of a person as well in exchange for my life. And if I get more than that, great. If I don't get any more than that, then I've already done my job. And the more that you can give that kind of guy an opportunity, a lead, anything to work with, the better it's going to be for you. But hang on, we got a fire giant, Dimes.
A 21-minute fire giant where the game was lost by the Xibalba Storm in game number 1. And the Kaolin Wardens hopping right off of it, realizing they don't have the shred here at 21.5 minutes. But, you know, the Xibalba Storm say, you chunk it down to half, we'll pick it right up. Not sure either one of these teams really wants to commit to this. I mean, one throne fight here, and you might lose more than a tier 2 tower. Happened a little off the mark there with the taunt. Good amount of damage online from the Baba Yaga, taking down Hapn to about 3/4 HP. Same thing could be said for GIobe, though. You hit a shield, hit a chain lightning, and hit a detonate. All of a sudden, the Kaolin Wardens are looking worse for wear.
And these mid laners are actually what I was about to talk about, Dimes, because once we get to about the 20 to 25 minute mark into this game and we start contending with some of these fire giants, that is really what you turn your attention toward. Which one of these teams has the better secure and is it reliable? And in game number 1, we had the final judgment available for the Xibalba Storm. GIobe had the best individual secure on the map. Game 2, not so easy. I mean, you're a very... I don't want to say utility style mage because you definitely have more damage as the Zeus, but you don't have the single individual instance of damage that you did on the Thoth. Your damage comes out slowly over time. It's a whole hell of a lot of it, make no mistake, but it doesn't come out instantaneously. Same thing for the Kaolin Wardens. I mean, you're looking at maybe a Baba Yaga potion is your best bet at securing. You could say Tubahh using the Desert's Fury might be in that conversation as well. Doesn't do big instantaneous damage, but a very good sustained source of damage there. Otherwise, we're looking at these runic bombs times, and both of these teams have one of them available. Hapn has one, and he's got to get out of there with the Athena ult. So at least for the time being, once he's off the map, once they know Defender of Olympus unavailable as well, could have been an opportunity for the Kaolin Wardens to use their own runic bomb to try to secure, but looks like instead it's going to be the Gold Fury. And honestly, Dimes, that might give the Storm the chance to take a position around this fire giant and fight the Wardens on rotation.
Pyromancer was not going down as quickly as the Xibalba Storm wanted, as now one member in Shippigami has been caught out. Delnyyy trying to head to the backline. Pico joining the solo laner as well. Shippigami's the target, but this is a lot committed to take out only one member. Shippigami at least is going to fall, slammed down by Ratmilk just to escape Hapn. Would love to keep the fight rolling here, but the Xibalba Storm, I mean, they're not low on HP, but they're not topped off exactly as high as they would be. The Kaolin Wardens see an opportunity to take this fire giant and start it up. Delnyyy headed back and right back in the action with the teleport. Hapn is low. ELLEON locking down the Athena, jumping forward as Tubahh as well.
Nice.
The Riptide, perfect from ELLEON, but Hapn able to escape with just a sliver of HP after Nog throws a potion over the wall as well. And the Kaolin Wardens have driven back the Xibalba Storm for a second time and will settle for the Pyro.
GIobe and Ratmilk are still around here, which means that with the ult, or the teleport in from Tegveer and the ult available from Hapn, they do have at least a sufficient force as a deterrent for the fire giant, and the Kaolin Wardens are not so comfortable potentially trying to gamble the game off of this fire giant. They'll grab another runic bomb, which, again, Dimes, I cannot understate how important these runic bombs are going to be around this fire giant. Unless you can get a convincing fight or some kind of significant advantage, like picking a member or getting a giant ultimate from one of your mages, it's very unlikely that you're going to be able to pull the fire giant in the face of the enemy team when all of these runic bombs are in play. That's 1,000 true damage plus the 300 physical damage to all of these structures, to all of these objectives. And wouldn't you know it, fire giant counts as one of those objectives. So you're playing with a 2,000 to 3,000 damage threshold for either team that they have to be very careful around, because if they time it wrong, if they're not in position with those characters that have the bomb, if they're not ready for it, could be catastrophic.
Tegveer, the target of the eye here from the Kaolin Wardens. ELLEON locked down a little bit behind. The execute is here, but Tegveer can't quite find the way into the backline. The Kaolin Wardens. GIobe chunked down dearly as well. Kept that Aegis in the pocket, though. The beads will be back up in 40. So by the time GIobe makes the rotation back to the Fire Giant, we'll have all actives available. Only Tubahh used an ultimate there, so not too much expended in that engagement. Titans have been unleashed and now marching down the middle lane. The Kaolin Wardens taking out the enemy Titan. Likely the Xibalba Storm will do the same uncontested. As Delnyyy has blinked into the backline. Pico as well. Playing Space Creator here. 3 caught in the River's Rebuke as nnog takes out Shippigami to kick things off. GIobe falling low. There's the Aegis. No more escape for GIobe as nnog has found a second in this engagement.
Hapn also 1 HP, getting chased down here. Pico, meanwhile, on the left-hand side, grabs one of his own, and Hapn will squeak on out, but can Tegveer say the same?
Kaolin Wardens underneath the Phoenix with a tier 2 tower online, chasing down kills, and now nnog is caught in a tough spot here as ELLEON's going to step forward, take a couple tower shots for the mid laner. And, oh man, this feels like shades of the first game here as the Titan is charging down the Phoenix, and the Kaolin Wardens, they are not going to do it again as they head into the base of the Xibalba Storm with only Hapn, not even Hapn, to defend its Titan on Titan violence as 5 members of the Kaolin Wardens take game number 2 in the same damn way they took game number 1.
Flashback to reality. There goes gravity, and there goes the Xibalba Storm once again, getting a great lead early on for the second game in a row. I mean, not a exorbitant lead, not 10,000 gold, but being pretty comfortably up a couple thousand gold, feeling like they had dominance of the map. And all it takes for the Xibalba Storm is that one fight. And in this particular fight, Delnyyy blinks in, gets an excellent Ox knock-up on just about everybody of the Xibalba Storm, and allows the Kaolin Wardens to pour in alongside their Titan down that middle lane and cut everybody off inside of the Yemoja ult. And I do want to point out as well, Dimes, because I feel like we haven't called his name pretty much at all. Nnog went unchecked in these games. He
100%.
dumped out damage on Baba Yaga 2 games in a row and absolutely tore through just about everybody of the Xibalba Storm. If you're walking forward with Home Sweet Home active and just running the chicken legs at the enemy team, throwing out damage, that is your ideal situation to be in for a Kaolin Wardens mid laner.
I mean, you said it the best. Delnyyy played Space Creator, right? Pico was causing havoc in the backline. Somehow Shippigami dies in that final fight to nnog. There's not a world where I feel like an ADC should be dying to the mid laner at the very beginning of an engagement, right? ELLEON had some clutch ults both in game number 1 and game number 2, and then Tubahh, the mechanical god, was just playing great distance, right? And making sure those auto attacks landed home. It was a team win, and it was a clean team win. And Kaizo, with that 2-0 of the Kaolin Wardens over the Xibalba Storm, that's going to clean up not only this evening's broadcast, but phase number 2 of the Smite Challenger Circuit. Got any last final words here for the SCC viewers at home?
It's been a blast, man. I mean, every split, it's so much fun to get to watch these teams and know that they're just one step away, and sometimes have already been at our highest level of play, and getting a look to see not only what the future of the game is going to look like, what the landscape may change to be, but also some of the more interesting games and some of the more diverse metas that we've seen at pretty much any other level of play. Things are pretty cut and dry at the pro level, but it's always fun to see the way that these guys get down and dirty, get incredibly creative, and sometimes make the magic happen.
Kaizo, I could not have said it better myself. So for the final time in phase number 2, thank you so much for joining us for the Smite Challenger Circuit. I've been Dimes, that's Kaizo, for our wonderful producer Phoenix and our phenomenal spectator Rosie. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. We'll see you when we see you. Make sure to stay hydrated.
The connection has been lost.
They say that life's too short to be holding this tight. So why am I walking light? And in this world of light and color, I'm not afraid of the night. When this future's so bright, that I got all these friends and we're like, it's not the end. Whoa, this new world is ours. This new world is ours, and all these friends and we're like, it's not the end. Whoa, this new world is ours. This new world is ours. This new world is ours. They say the life's too short, and I can feel in my bones the horizon is close now, now.